What's up, everybody? Today is Friday, January 12th, 2024. I don't know if you can see my breath. I don't know if the camera's getting that, but it's really cold out. It is currently 3 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about negative 16 degrees Celsius here in central Washington, in the Quincy-Ephrata area. 3 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. Sit in the car and you can still see my breath. It's very cold. My car didn't even want to start. It took a minute for my car to start. Yeah, it is extremely cold, mostly because of the wind. The wind is making it really cold. I mean, it is like ridiculously cold. So we're heading to the store right now, and so that's why we had to come outside. I go to work, but not until 3 o'clock. I work 12 hours today, 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. It's gonna be really cold at my job too. I mean, depending on where I'm at. But it's really cold. So anyhow, that's what's going on. That's it's kind of the main thing going on right now. Yeah, my car, I could feel it like struggling. It is so cold. You know, I've actually heard that well, there's a cop right there, Becca. I actually heard that electric cars, when it starts to get really cold, they won't start either. And when it gets really, really cold, they won't start either. But yeah, man, even my gas car, struggling. Sucks, man. It's really, really cold. I'm not sure I experienced this cold before. We lived in Utah for a while, and it gets really cold there too. But I don't know if it got down to 2 or 3. It was actually 0 degrees Fahrenheit about an hour ago, and then tonight it's going to really dip down. I think tonight it might go into the negatives Fahrenheit, which is, you know, almost. It's probably going to get like negative 20 Celsius. So it's really, really cold. Look at, I'm going to show you the car in front of me. He's got caked on snow on his car. It's so cold that it's just frozen on your car. Absolutely nothing is melting. Normally, say like snows at night, but you know, the sun comes out during the day sometimes, and it'll melt some of the snow. But it is so cold, nothing is melting right now. It's all just, it's like ice, and it's very slippery. I literally have slip-resistant boots on for my work. I have slip-resistant steel-toe boots, and it's still slippy and slidey. You know, they're slip-resistant, not slip-proof. So yeah, that's how icy it is, that even with slip-resistant shoes, it's still slippery. So I can imagine people who just have regular shoes on. And Becca too, she has her slip-resistant boots on, and Nano his too, and we still all had to be careful. Becca, have you experienced this cold before?
Maybe Germany.
Yeah, Becca lived in Germany for a while, and where? Badenheim?
Mm-hmm. Badenheim, Friedberg.
Yeah, around Friedberg, Germany. For any of you out there who happen to be from Germany.
Elvis was stationed there, and my ex-husband was in the military. So.
Yeah, Becca was married before, and her ex-husband was in the military, and he was stationed out there. But Becca says supposedly Elvis was stationed out there too.
Same base. He was. It's proof.
In Friedberg?
Yes.
So you guys can research that and see if Becca's bullshitting or not.
Elvis Presley.
Elvis was no damn military. No, he wasn't in the military, I think. It was Becca and Elvis in Germany.
I've touched places he still.
Yeah. So anyhow, yeah, for those of you from Germany, you know how cold it gets out there too. Most of Germany is more northern, more northern latitude than the United States is, so it gets really cold there too. I think though, on average, we have more high elevation places, so there may be spots in the United States that get colder than Germany just because we have higher elevation. But Germany, most of Germany is more northern latitude than the United States. It's kind of around the same latitude as Canada, I think. But anyhow, so yeah, Becca lived out there for a while. Then Bad Nauheim, however you pronounce it. And she says it gets really cold out there too. And I've looked. It does get really cold out there too. And me, I've lived in some cold places, but like you said, we lived in Salt Lake City, Utah for a while, and it gets really cold there too. I think it got down when we were there. At least it got down as low as like I think 4 degrees Fahrenheit or something. I really don't remember. But that was like in the middle of the night. I don't know if it ever got this cold during the day, down to just 0 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think it got that cold during the day. But yeah, it's definitely cold. It's definitely the talk of the town around here that it's really cold. Actually, 2 main things going on right now: the cold, obviously, and then there's kind of a local gas station. It's called Jackpot. It's like the name of the gas part I think is Concord, but then the food part is called Jackpot or something like that. Anyhow, someone got shot and killed there, and so since this is a small town, that was kind of the talk of the town for a little bit. People were talking about that at my work. One of the guys at my work, he said he knew him, and I think the guy was on drugs really bad, and he got drugged out really bad, and I think he stabbed the cop a couple times, and the cop shot him and killed him. But you can look it up if you want. You just look up. You just looked up Quincy Washington and it popped up, huh, Becca?
Yeah, Quincy Washington News.
Yeah, if you just looked up Quincy Washington News, it'll pop up, and if it doesn't, Quincy Washington gas station shooting or something like that, and it should pop up if you're interested to look up the news story. But yeah, so that's the 2 main things, kind of the talk of the town right now is the extreme cold. People are like, yeah, it's really cold, and then for the day that happened, people were talking. They're like, hey, did you hear somebody got killed at they call it either Jackpot or just Jack's or whatever. It's just it's a gas station / food thing. I don't know if you guys can hear, but the wind is blowing really hard too. Man, it's cold. It's crazy. It's crazy. Actually, you know what? I'm glad I'm making a video about cold. I wanted to actually talk about being in winter in prison. I wanted to make a video about that, like kind of by itself, but I'll just kind of include it with this video. So for those of you who watch my channel, man, it's really windy, Becca. It's like pushing the car.
I know.
It's like pushing the car. But anyhow, for those of you who watch my channel, you know that I was locked up for 6 years. I was incarcerated from it was actually June 2000 to June 2006. For those of you who watch my channel, you know that already. Okay, and I wanted to talk about winter in prison because the interesting thing about being in prison in California, as opposed to a lot of other states in the United States, is California is not only a really big state, it's a really long state. Okay, and so if you get sentenced to prison in California, you could be sent to a prison anywhere in California, from Southern California, Central California, Northern California, more towards the coast, more towards inland, anywhere. Yeah, if you get a prison sentence in California, they could send you to any one of there's like, I don't know, 35 prisons or something like that in California. And so you get a prison term, they can send you to any of them. Okay, and since California is a very long state, it touches on a lot of different latitudes. The southernmost part of California is around, oh gosh, I don't know, like say 32 degrees north latitude, and it goes all the way up to the very top of California, I believe, is 40 degrees north latitude. Okay, and so the point is, there's a lot of temperature variations. Obviously, you're in the southern part of California. It's pretty much warm all the time, extremely hot, etc., right? But if you're in the northern parts of California, it could get really cold. Okay, and then also California has a lot of mountains, and so there's also really cold parts, not just because of latitude, but because you could be high elevation as well. Okay, and so when you get sent to prison in California, you can, and like I said, you can go to any prison in the states, and they're all over. You could be at a prison where it gets really, really hot, really, really cold, and So I wanted to talk about that. And so I actually been at both extremes. So I've talked before how one of the prisons I was at, Ironwood State Prison in Blythe, California. You can look that up on a map. Look up Ironwood State Prison. It's on the California-Arizona border, way out in the middle of nowhere in the desert. It's out there in the middle of nowhere. You look that up on the map, it's nowhere. Anyhow, it gets extremely hot out there. Okay, I mean like 125 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. Every day in the summer from like July through like September, it's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit every day, over 110 degrees Fahrenheit every day. Very, very hot, right? Okay, another prison I was at in California, this was for a reception center. That's the prison they first send you when you go to prison, because they're trying to figure out where they're going to send you, was Tehachapi. There was a prison at the time, this was in 2000. The reception center was in Tehachapi, California, and it was up in the mountains. Not that high a latitude, maybe 34, 35 degrees north latitude, but the elevation there, I think, is like 4,000 feet, maybe 4,500 feet, somewhere around there. And so it got really cold in the wintertime. I was actually there during the winter time. Snow, really low temperatures, like here, extremely cold. And so that's one thing that you never hear about when people, when you watch movies about prison or whatever. It's mostly when you watch movies about prison, whatever, it's always talking about violence and drugs and gangs and all that kind of stuff, right? But there's other things you deal with in prison too, like dealing with climate change or even elevation change. So for example, let's say you're from somewhere in California that's like relatively nice weather, like year round. Like somewhere like San Diego, California. For anyone who knows about San Diego, California, relatively nice year-round. Never gets too hot. Never gets really too cold in comparison to other places in California. Anyways, it's generally it's near the ocean. It's beach weather, whatever, right? But so say you're from there. Say you're born and raised in San Diego, California. You never really left, right? And then you end up getting in trouble for something. You go to prison. Okay. Like I said, they can send you to prison anywhere, and so part of the shock of prison, and on top of all the dealing with the gangs and the violence and everything else you hear about in the movies and stuff, is you're going to get a climate shock. You've been in, say, San Diego, it's basically beach weather your whole life, and all of a sudden they send you like somewhere I went, like Ironwood State Prison and Blythe, and now it's 110, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. You're like, holy crap, what is this? And when you're in prison, especially if you're part of a gang or whatever, and you're trying to survive or whatever, your people may have like mandatory workouts, mandatory yard time, where basically you got to go outside and work out or walk around the yard or whatever. And that doesn't seem like a big deal, like I said, until it's 110, 115, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Or on the opposite end, when I was in Tehachapi, we had mandatory yard. And so we'd go out and it was like 5 degrees Fahrenheit or like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And so, so my point is, that's one of the shocks of prison, is that, you might not think about it, especially if you grew up in your little neighborhood and your little city and you're just there your whole life. And that's kind of pretty much how I was. I grew up in San Bernardino County, which is more inland, and like I said, it's hot majority of the time. And so when I went to Tehachapi in prison, and the first thing, it is high elevation, like I said, like 4,000 feet, so it's harder to breathe because there's less oxygen as you go, higher in altitude. So it's harder to breathe. It was really freaking cold, and your people are like, hey, you need to go outside. It's mandatory yard, mandatory workout, and you're out there shivering in your little prison clothes, because they don't give you the most warmest clothes to warm up with or whatever. Just a cheap little beanie, a cheap little jacket that has no lining on it. And so yeah, winter in prison is hard. Summer in prison is really hard. And but the main thing is it's just something that, like I said, nobody kind of like prepares you for or tells you about. Like I said, it's not something that you see or hear about in the movies or whatever. But that is one of the shocks. Like I said, you grew up in your little neighborhood basically your whole life, maybe not going too far or whatever, unless you do travel. But anyhow, you deal with that, and then you happen to get locked up for whatever reason. and then they send you to this prison out in the middle of freaking nowhere somewhere. Again, either really hot or really cold, and you're like, holy crap! I didn't know the earth got this hot or this cold. You just, you know. So yeah. So anyhow, so that's one of the shocks of prison, and you got to function. Again, on top of all the other bad crap you hear about prison, you got to deal with the temperature. You know, when your people are saying, hey, you need to go outside and you do some push-ups and burpees and you know, and pull-ups and dips and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, man, it's fucking freezing fucking cold out there. You may go outside and work out or whatever, you know? And it's, hey, it's mandatory. You know, you know, and that's the thing. That's the thing. Prison sucks. Prison sucks, and basically this is just another reason that prison sucks, especially in California. Whereas if you go to prison in a smaller state, or like say you're from Alaska, for example, and you live anywhere in Alaska pretty much, and you go to prison, okay, doesn't really matter where they send you. You're used to cold already, because it's cold no matter where you live in Alaska. It's cold. You know, you're used to extreme cold, whether you live in way southern part of Alaska, northern, eastern, western. You know, it gets colder or warmer, but in general, it gets really, really cold in the winter, and that's just it. So wherever they send you to prison, it's not a big temperature shock. Even if they send you somewhere far away, you're like, well, it's cold where I lived anyways. Or if, say, you live in Arizona where it's hot all the time, and they send you to prison somewhere somewhere else, you know, in Arizona, it's still going to be hot, you know, no big deal, right? But like I said, since California is so long, not just big, it's so long, and the temperature variations are wide, going, like I said, from about 32 degrees north latitude to 40 degrees north latitude. Temperature variates a lot, and so yeah, you can get big shocks again. And then California has a lot of mountains too, and a lot of flatlands. Again, you could be from somewhere that's a flatland that's like warm year round, and they send you to prison somewhere that's high up in the mountains and way up in Northern California, it's freezing freaking cold, maybe even like year round, and you're like, what the heck? It like never warms up in this place. You know what I'm saying? So anyhow, so yeah, so that's just another one of the shocks of a prison, and you just never hear about that. So I thought that was interesting, because it was a shock to me. Like I said, you know, they sent me to places that, I mean, I grew up in the desert. And like I said, if any of you who know about San Bernardino County, California, it gets hot out there. But they send me to freaking Blythe. It don't get that hot in San Bernardino. It gets maybe 110. I'd like the most usually. It, you know, usually hovers around like 105. You know, in the hottest parts of the summer where I grew up. And they sent me out there to Ironwood State Prison out in the motherfucking real desert. And I was like, holy shit, 120, 125. It doesn't even make sense. It is so hot. It's just like, it's like, the words can't even express it. It's just like, oh my God. I mean, it feels like you're in an oven. It feels like you're in an oven and like someone has a magnifying glass above your head. It's just like the sun just beating on you. It's insane. Then on, like I said, the opposite extreme, they sent me up in the damn mountains into Tehachapi, California, freezing fucking cold. So yeah, so that was definitely one of the shocks for me for prison, on top of all the other nonsense that I had to deal with. But anyhow, it's cold today here in central Washington, pretty much, I mean all of Washington right now. All the northern states in the United States, it's really cold right now. All of you in Europe, you understand, like I said, Germany and Hungary and Norway and Finland, and I mean, you guys know the business, it's really cold. And then for all of you like in Florida and Arizona and Southern California and Southern Texas and all that, you guys are probably nice and cozy warm right now. Maybe even too hot, I don't know. But anyhow, that's the video. Gonna get going. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for hearing me talk about the cold and whatnot. And I will see you guys next video.